Chase, who is in Utah. He is also an ex-Mormon and says he just wants to talk about his getting out of the LDS church. Chase, you are live on Truth Wanted. How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm just having a good day.
Chase.
It's been really fun.
Hello, wait, who's that?
This is.
I feel like I'm talking to like three people at once all of a sudden.
This is ObjectivelyDan with Truth Wanted, and you are here live with me in the studio and Uncle Mark from a mysterious mountain base in Utah somewhere, I assume.
Yes.
I am also coming from a mysterious mountain base somewhere in Utah.
Oh, so. Interesting. Is that like a little club up there that you guys do, or?
There's two mountain bases.
Two mountain bases. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell us, Chase, what did you want to talk to us about? Sounds like you had an interesting story to tell, maybe.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, I'm coming from Utah. I'm an ex-Mormon. I was raised Mormon. I served the mission. Went through all the secret temple ceremonies, wore the secret underwear and everything.
Cool.
And so,
I too wear secret underwear, by the way, but it's not Mormon underwear. It's something else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, would your underwear stop a bullet?
I haven't tried it yet, but I'd be willing. Let's get that live. Mark, let's set that up next week. Let's shoot the underwear.
Sure.
I can't say I'd recommend it, but I'm sure it would go viral to some extent.
Yeah. So tell us more about this story you wanted to tell us.
So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to sort of analyze some of. I feel like the Mormon Church uses a lot of tactics to keep members in. They're a very community-based church, and as someone who's gone through the process of leaving, and I'm sure Mark can sympathize with this, and I am coming into the show sort of late, so maybe talked about your experience a bit more than what I'm aware of, but. I mean, it can be a very isolating and lonely process getting out when your entire social community is tied to the church, when your family is, going to start thinking of you differently. And, when people start telling you you're crazy because you don't believe it anymore, it can be a very painful process. And it's one that I know actually drives a lot of people to stay, even though they don't believe it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Was that your experience, Chase?
Yeah, it was. And I sat in the closet for a couple of years before I felt like I was in a position where I could leave. Right. And, now that I'm finally out and have been able to invest some time into learning how to be a normal person, life is way better than it was before, but it is a difficult process to go through.
I think that I've had this conversation on our podcast and on some different ones as well. And we were talking about it on cognitive dissonance one night. And for a lot of people that come from the Christmas Catholic world, or I was Christian, but it wasn't that big a deal. I think it's very hard for them to understand the totality of control and experience that someone like a Mormon or a Jehovah's Witness or a Scientologist lives with, right? It fills up every minute of your day. And Chase, you probably came from the 3-hour church, and then there was the fireside in the evening. And when I was a kid, there was an activity almost every weeknight. And there was seminary, which is 1 hour of Mormon church during the school day. And a lot of Mormon families had an hour of scripture reading and prayer before school in addition to that. So it so consumes your time and energy that when you decide you have to leave, that's all gone. And generally, and oftentimes, a lot of, like you're saying, a lot of your community goes with it, right? A lot of us are completely estranged from our families or portions of our families. So it's a freaky time, right? To come out of it and then find your feet.
So, and I will add on to this as well, because I didn't come from a Mormon background, but I did come from a Christian background. And I took it very seriously. It's so scary, and you feel so alone. And one, I never thought I'd be speaking out on shows like this, but I didn't know that I could talk to anybody about this stuff. I wasn't fully aware that there was as such a big and vibrant community as kind of these ex-religious communities are, and how my experiences just felt so validated after I talked about it with some other people. For me, I lost a narrative in my life. I thought that I was, going to be protected by God. I thought God had a purpose for me. I thought that even though I didn't know what things were going on right now, that there was going to be a plan. And when I dropped that, it was like, well, shit. Now I have to figure things out for myself. And that's really different. And suddenly the kid who thought he was going to serve, doing mission trips and some sort of service work through the church has to figure out a whole new career path, has to figure out a whole new way of doing life, a whole new way of interacting with people, a whole new way of picking spouses, a whole new way of doing everything. And that's really, really hard. And unfortunately, we don't have as many institutions in our society as we should to kind of help with those experiences. There definitely are organizations like the Freedom from Religion Foundation and others that are doing really great work on that front, but it's really, really hard, Yeah,
so talk a little bit more about your, what that intermediate time was like, Chase, when you decided you couldn't be there anymore, and then, before you found your way out to the daylight.
So let's see, I was dating a girl at the time that was Mormon, and, we really liked each other. It was a really good relationship, until this happened. And so, during that period of time, it sort of turned into this thing where everybody in my family knew what was going on, but they didn't want to talk to me directly about it. They just sort of gossiped amongst themselves, and it turned
very
into
Mormon, yes.
Oh, he just wants to sin. He's clearly looking at pornography, all those things,
Right.
That rather than confront that, I actually had reasons for doing what I wanted to do. And, it ended up reaching a point where, my girlfriend's parents told her that, they were considering not letting her visit them anymore because they were concerned about the influence that she would have on her little sister, and then, she was trying to convince me that I needed to go get mental help somewhere because, clearly someone who doesn't believe in God can't be a mentally sane person, and all these things. Eventually I just had to end all of that, move into a new apartment because, my roommates were Mormon and thus were in the same congregation and would never stop putting on that pressure. And so it was a transition through everything. I'm a student right now, and I was just starting out as a freshman at the time. And, I had to suddenly become financially independent because, my parents, if they were helping support me at all, would use that to control me to some extent and say, oh, well, we can't pay for your insurance or your tuition if you're not going to, do what we tell you to and go to church and whatnot.
Right.
And so, it lasted about a year or so. And I'm glad that, I was sure enough of my decision in order to stick through it. Eventually I was able to start networking my way into some communities and start meeting people who had been through the same things I had been through. Once I started looking online, it really helped a lot. And I feel like the internet, that's one way that the internet has sort of helped spike this decline in the Mormon church that's happened over the last decade or so. I mean, it's not just that information is more available, which is clearly a problem for them, but also that this ex-Mormon community is more available as well. Correct. If you were to try and look in your neighborhood, it would be difficult to walk around all the neighbors and be like, hey, have you been through this or whatever? You can't just do that. But, you can find groups online. There's the ex-Mormon subreddit, all these resources that are suddenly available to sort of lend support, even if it's just in the form of somebody who agrees with your point of view.
Absolutely. And I don't know if this is available in your location, but the Secular Student Alliance really helped me out because I lost my faith when I was in college. And I had to travel to another school for their school's Secular Student Alliance because we didn't have one where I was at. But it was so worth it going there and meeting every week and talking to people in real life about these things that are just always on your mind and that you always notice. And you're right, it's such a good feeling just talking to people. I know online is great too, but there's nothing that beats just having a drink with somebody and talking about the shit you used to believe and the shit you used to do, you know?
Yeah. And that's actually where I ended up. After searching online, I was finally able to find some people in my area. And it got to a point where I helped start and grow the Secular Student Alliance.
Oh, yes.
The chapter of the Secular Student Alliance at my university.
Oh, awesome. That is so good.
And
are you going to the SSA conference?
Over 100 members.
Are you going to the SSA conference this year? Because I might be going. We should hang out if you're there.
I went the last 2 years. I'm planning on going this year.
You were there last year?
In LA. It's going to be a blast.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you met me.
Yeah. Okay. That might have happened because I did speak.
We were speaking at the same time, I think.
Oh, okay. That's what it was. Yeah, because I had a talk about street epistemology at last year's Secular Student Alliance. That was before Truth Wanted actually started. So that's really cool. I didn't know that you were there. Oh, okay. Well, now we definitely have to hang out if we do that. Well, I'm so glad that you're...
I think you would recognize my face.
Okay.
I'm the one who gave the talk with Martha. We co-hosted
Oh, yes.
sessions.
Okay, yes. Now I know. Yeah, Martha's awesome too. Yeah, I'm so glad that you found that organization helpful. It's such a great resource for me. I think Uncle Mark was about to say something here. And
No. I just wanted to do 2 quick points because we want to get some more callers on, I imagine. But,
yes.
Chase, you were talking about all the, people talking behind your back. You were losing financial backing from your family. You were told to seek mental health. These are all coercions, right? They seem like those all seem like different things going on, but they're all the same thing. And they're all a coercion to force you to stay. Because, when people are very much into a high stakes religious faith, or they're suffering from kind of the sunk cost fallacy, and anybody else leaving threatens their belief, your own family. We have this huge problem in Utah with LGBT kids that either run away or thrown out on the street, with youth suicide. It's all because of these insidious coercions. And then the second point, you were talking about finding community once you'd left faith because you were kind of on your own. I think part of what we do on the How-to-Heretic in our podcast is we try to bounce a message over the transom, because the internet, as you were saying, can do that. We can reach people that maybe couldn't find a community or couldn't find a voice to say, you're not crazy. And that's incredibly important to tell people, right? If you're a Baptist kid in the South, if you're a Mormon kid in rural Utah, you may not know anybody who isn't part of your faith, but you're doubting, so that makes you a crazy person. So to have some voice come over the internet and say, no, you're not crazy, that's super powerful. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, and that's I honestly feel like that's one of the biggest things that is helping this type of change move forward. And I do feel like the Mormon Church is seeing it more than most other religions at this point. They seem
their truth claims are so extraordinary that when they begin to fall apart, it's kind of indefensible, right? The Bible, but the Mormons make some very, very bizarre claims, like Native Americans are all Jews, that sort of thing. So once science disproves that, you look beyond the veil. There's kind of no going back, right?
And I'll say this too. I'm sure it works the same way with the Mormon Church, but like the wildest stuff, like the Native Americans were Jews and some of those other things, like those are never expanded upon in regular meetings with people. Those are never the talking points. It's always the rest of it that goes on. And those are kind of like these kind of background details. So that's another thing too, because those are the kinds of things that go on in our heads. Meanwhile, everybody else is kind of thinking maybe the more general points, at least with Christianity, it's, how do we love our neighbors better and things like that. So there is kind of a dissonance in the thought processes of how they understand their religion, because I see it from a historical and socioeconomic standpoint and all these other things, and people just also see it as just they're just community, the friends that they hang out with and stuff. So it can almost be like you're talking to about a completely different subject sometimes with other people. So that's something to consider as well.
All right, we fixed all of Chase's problems.
Yes.
Let's move on to the next call.
I was going to say, Chase, I'm glad that you did get to call in. I hope that it was also validating talking about your experiences here on Truth Wanted.
Yeah, it was good talking to you. I I look forward to seeing you at the next conference.
Yes, I plan on being there. I do plan on being there. And that's anybody else who's listening as well. The Secular Student Alliance Conference, which I believe is going to be in California this year, which is really,
LA.
really cool. Yeah. All right. Thanks for calling, Chase. This was really, really awesome.
We'll see ya. Bye.
See you, man.